Hello, everybody. Welcome to YPO Presents Ask the Experts, the future of wellness. I'm so happy to welcome everyone to this call. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have here two experts in the health and wellness industry, Meni and Matt. And I'm going to introduce you to them and give them a chance to introduce themselves a little bit. Just so you know who I am, I'm a Dr. Darshan Shah. I'm a physician. I own wellness and longevity centers in New York and Los Angeles called Next Health. I'm also the current educational chair of the Health and Wellness Network, which I highly recommend all you YPOers out there join if you can. We have a lot of great content on there, and we love bringing content like this to you in YPO and also to the general public about topics that we all have a deep interest in, and we have experts. One of the benefits of YPO is having these experts as part of YPO that are willing to talk to us about what they're seeing in the industry. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you Meni. Meni is the CEO of Lifeist Wellness, which is a global health platform connecting people with pathways to their individual definition of wellness. So Meni, tell us a little bit more about what that means and what products you provide, please.
Oh, for sure. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, the description is a little bit broad, but it's more of a mission or a vision statement, if anything. We're a company that is a Canadian company. We have roots in the Canadian cannabis business, and a while ago we started repositioning the business to the point where we are today, which is a much broader health and wellness company. We currently have two key divisions in the space. One is our, I would say, more legacy cannabis division, where we operate solely in Canada. And the other one is our nutraceuticals division, named Micra. We focused up until now on our first product, which was a cognitive performance product. We recently launched a digestive health product, and we're looking forward to launching another product within the athletic performance domain. All of this work or this industry is relatively new to me personally, as I joined it just I would say 4 or 5 years ago. Most of my background is in software, so I'm learning as part of launching this new industry. So I'm very excited to talk about this future together today.
Oh, thank you so much, Manny. It's so great to have your expertise on this call. And you look like you're pretty healthy. So obviously you're doing something that works well. And Matt, another healthy individual. It's so good to meet you and have you on this call. So you're the senior advisor and entrepreneur in residence at Warbug Pincus, and you're joining us from China today. Is that correct?
Correct. Thank you so
Oh,
much, Darshan and Meni. Great to be here. So, to introduce myself very briefly as well, I formerly was the president of a company called Vitaco Health Group, which is a platform of Australia and New Zealand vitamin supplements and sports nutrition and health food brands that we bought with a private equity firm, Primavera Capital, and also a Chinese state-owned enterprise, Shanghai Pharma. I've been overseas now in China and Australia for the past 15 years. Currently, I have a number of hats in the health and wellness space. As you mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur in residence with Warbug Pincus, a U.S. private equity firm leading our health and wellness investments centered around the China healthcare team, but looking at investments globally. I also am the head of new growth for a company called MitoQ, which is a leading cellular health supplements company. This is a company that has a patented ingredient called mitoquinol mesylate, which is a mitochondrial antioxidant product that we sell primarily in the U.S. and China, and also expanding to other countries. I also am a managing director for a Warbug Pincus portfolio company called HTDK, which is a medical device and consumer healthcare distribution platform in China, where we distribute to over 100,000 pharmacies across China, and also are the either a long-term China license owner or China master distributor for a lot of global supplements and health and wellness brands out of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and a bunch of other countries. In addition to all of that, personally, an investor in a private equity investor and personal investor in a lot of health and wellness companies in the United States, including CrossFit, the parent organization, as well as companies like Stratum Nutrition, which is a natural eggshell membrane manufacturer in the United States, and a bunch of others. So active in the space, and as I also mentioned, I'm also a professional Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor and trained UFC fighters and done a lot of work there. So always involved in looking for how to be healthy and have a bit of an edge.
Wow, that's awesome. So certainly great to have your international perspective as well as your deep knowledge in this field on this call. So just for everyone watching, please use the uh, chat to type questions to us. I'm going to be keeping track of these. We have someone actually curating the questions for us, and I like to ask questions as we're going along rather than wait till the end. So we'll make sure we get to as many questions as possible. And with that, I'd like to start off with my first question for the experts here. One of the things that I'm seeing is people in general just want to have more control over their health, meaning they want to take some personal responsibility for their own health. They want to see their data. So, one of the things that we do is we measure biomarker panels, blood tests on all of our patients, give them the results, but then they want to be educated on those results and how they can make a change. So, people are really looking into their health and taking personal responsibility now. And whether that be things like wearables or other devices and or being more involved in their nutritional supplementation. I'm just wondering what your perspective is. What are you seeing and how are people taking more control of their health? Meni, why don't you start with that?
Sure, it's actually a really, really cool topic to kick off with, because I think that if there's anything that the last 3 years have shown us is that both our mental and physical health and wellness have to be prioritized. And I think that now more than ever, people are more open to expanding their view of what wellness looks like to them, right? It's very, very individuals. And they do that in order to be able to spend more time within their lives feeling like their best self. So it's not only about longevity, but what you do with the time that you have on this planet. And I think that the last few years made a lot of people wake up in the morning and say, and kind of feel a little bit terrible and might think, well, I guess this is just the way it has to be from now on. And of course, as many people that are joining this call, no, it doesn't really have to be that way because the market is starting to evolve with that type of consumer mindset in mind. And it's doing so by innovating via lesser known ingredients, relatively new technologies, and really coming to terms with the idea that not only is every person's wellness journey different, but these companies need to meet the moment by offering unexpected ways for people to customize their own personal health regimen. And we spoke a little bit prior to this call about your clinics, Darshan. It's like it's so interesting to me because that's exactly the point. Now, I might be a little bit biased, but I truly believe that Micro, our nutraceutical subsidiary, is really in the forefront of this shift with our flagship products, biomimetic technology. And my hope is that many other companies will use innovations like this and other to go as inspiration effectively, to go beyond their level of comfort, to go in what initially might seem weird or complex or intimidating in order to really and truly serve modern consumer needs. And just to explain this biomimetic note, that what we do there is Self, that's the name of the product, has an advanced delivery system that effectively mimics a natural biological process that occurs at a cellular level called receptor-mediated endocytosis. And effectively, what this technology does, it ensures that the product or the compound gets exactly to where it needs to go. It allows your cells to eat and absorb that compound directly once it passes through your digestive system and into your bloodstream. And the issue here, why we focused on that, is because many supplements tout these really amazing, trendy ingredients, but they fail to ensure that our bodies can actually consume them before they're destroyed. So focusing on crucial elements like bioavailability and efficacy, in my view, in the context of this question, matter as much or much more than just having proprietary blends or just fancy packaging.
Yeah, you're right. And just going on what you said, I mean, people are so focused on their health span now, right? Because they know that we've added so many years to
Yeah,
our life, but having 20 of those years end up, not being able to move, not being able to recognize your family, not being able to do the things you love is just not in anybody's best interest. So people are
exactly.
taking control of that health span. And, I'm so glad you mentioned biomimetic technology because I think people are doing their research now, right? They're on the internet. They want to make sure the supplements they're taking are available And this is incredible new technology. So I'm glad you guys are bringing that to the forefront. Matt, what are you seeing in your world?
But I think the question about data and health and all these wearables, I think we're really just at the beginning of this. I think, you know, in Asia or anywhere, the extent of health technology that most people have is probably tracking their steps with a Fitbit, right, or something similar, or a Garmin device or their Apple Watch. One thing that COVID has really ushered in, and is amazing, once the zero COVID policy ended in China, and all of this the focus came out saying the government saying, well, we're not going to control it or try to protect you yourself. Now the onus is on you to protect your own health. Is that people started turning to data to try to see, in addition to obviously tests, to rapid tests or PCR tests to see. And one of the things that people started to do that became very popular in China are blood oxygen monitors and
Mm,
pulse oxygen. I mean, this is, you had people who never in their lives had bought a device, and all of a sudden, people are calling me and saying, I need, at the middle of the night, I need to monitor because I'm worried when I'm asleep, my blood oxygen levels could be dipping below, 88 for more than 36 seconds, which I've heard is a real sign of these. So, I think this COVID in many ways has propelled people to look more into their data, to monitor things much more actively. And yeah, I would say, while there are several companies, and we've seen valuations go up and down, that are trying to do this kind of space, whether it's Whoop or or Garmin or these kind of things, I wouldn't say anyone is doing it well, and I wouldn't say that anyone has a great way of actively generating health outcomes from the data that you build, right? So, even if it's something, the kind of tests that you're talking about, if in the newer cutting edge stuff, I'm sure you're involved in, like telomeres and these kind of things, or, how often, what do I do with it? What does it mean? How do I actually, I think we're still really at the beginning of that space.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we're in V1 or maybe V1.5 right now with wearables, but we're on this exponential growth curve of biotechnology, right? Like we're seeing things come out faster and faster and faster. And my iWatch just got an oxygen sensor put into it as well. So this is like incredible stuff that's coming out pretty quickly. So does my Aura Ring. And now that we'll have large population based data with wearables, I think we're going to get to actionable insights much faster than the double blind randomized control studies we used to be doing, right? So, a quick
Exactly.
survey. Many, do you wear a wearable device? Oh, we can't hear you anymore,
Oh, I
Many.
think you're muted.
You're muted. Oh, you know what? He doesn't have his earbuds and he took his earbuds out. So maybe they can alert him to that. Matt, what's your wearable of choice?
I wear a Garmin
Mhm.
here that I, have worn for a few years and really like. Unfortunately, in China, I don't have access to an Aura. They don't have Aura Ring distribution. We don't have Whoop here, and so there's maybe, I wouldn't say I personally am on the cutting edge of these kind of things, but would hope to be soon.
Many, we didn't hear your response. Give us your reply on the wearable. Oops, it seems like you're still
Still
disconnected, Many.
muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wear an Aura Ring and an Apple iWatch. I'm pretty impressed with the Aura Ring. I've tried them all. So, Matt, I think I might buy you one and send one to you over there in China one of these
Oh,
days. My gift for you for joining us today. So
thank
let's move
you.
on. Hopefully, we can get many back on the call here. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about a topic that I'm hearing a lot of chatter in YPO now, which is psychedelics, such as psilocybin, LSD, and let's just even tie cannabis into this. Let's talk about this arena. What do you think? Is there an opportunity here in the wellness industry with these products? And where do you see things going with these products? I have my concerns, to be honest with you, but Matt, you want to take that first?
Sure. This is something in the markets that I'm in, Australia, China, these kind of things, that is so far behind, right, compared to where the United States is. Um, I definitely think my feeling is where you are, Darshan. I think there's probably something here, um, and but I think the real question is from a commercialization, from a scale point of view. when and how, and certainly from an investor point of view, right? How can you, from a regulatory point of view, from a growth rate, and these kind of things. And so I would say it's very much a watch this space. I would say we very much need not just anecdotal data and not just Joe Rogan data, but we need some
Right.
clinical, data and longitudinal data, and we need the regulations. I mean, even with something like medical cannabis, which has been present in the United States, when you look at that from an investor point of view, and you look at the issues with cross-state distribution and banking and all of these, the ecosystem to support these businesses, I think it's just really early days.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I just hope that because these products are so widely available, that we don't hear about disasters and they get re-regulated or just fall off the radar for people to use before we have the chance to get some real good clinical data on it. Meni, this is your world a little bit, right? The cannabis world as well. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about your perspective on where this is headed and where you see things kind of unfolding?
Oh, for sure. And sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear me now. Can you?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Perfect. So I like talking about the opportunity, I think, and if I understand you correctly, because I skipped a little bit, I had to rejoin. Talking about the industry and opportunity in the cannabis, psychedelics, and so forth industry. I think that, yeah, this is a topic that I can speak about for hours. I think the opportunity is massive, but we need a few things to happen before we can truly capitalize on it. So first, we need to see more research into these compounds. As some of us know, that research has basically come to a halt in the 80s when most of these compounds were classified as a Schedule 1 drug by the US, which was then followed by other countries and the UN shortly after. Now, I have to put in a disclaimer and say that these compounds are not a good fit for everyone, but for some, it has an amazing impact. And if you haven't, if our viewers haven't read How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, and if you're short on time, check the Netflix miniseries, because I think it provides a ton of valuable information on this topic. The second thing that needs to happen is that the stigma around these compounds needs to be addressed. Yes, people can and do use some of these compounds recreationally, but they do the same for alcohol, right? And so far, I haven't seen any scientific literature that shows that alcohol has any significant medical benefits, while it definitely has some negative ones. So it's just really a question of time, in my view, because if you remember, once upon a time, alcohol was illegal in the US, for example, as we all know. And I think the third thing that needs to happen in order for us to be able to move forward with this opportunity is that we need to see broader, more global legalization, because this in turn will promote more research, but also more companies coming into the field, especially from the more established healthcare and pharma industries. Now, I think there are other aspects to this, but in my view, these are the biggest factors. And once we see these things happen, the rest will follow, and we'll truly see a renaissance in human wellness and health. But there are a lot of obstacles, as kind of discussed, and they're really a derivative of the aspects that I've listed. But if I look specifically at Canada, being within this industry, we have a very, very heavy and poorly structured tax burden and a complete ban on marketing that are major obstacles for us as well. So on the taxation side, and this is something that I hope globally will be different and will be revised in Canada as well, cannabis companies are very heavily taxed. And it uses a system that, among other things, doesn't take into account the fact that cannabis comes in different form factors. So it really is difficult to reallocate non-existing profits to R&D and growth. And on the marketing side, and again, let's compare cannabis to alcohol and tobacco, for example. The latter can be advertised relatively freely. Less so tobacco, and mainly in recent years, but alcohol ads are everywhere. And yet cannabis is completely banned from being advertised. So this makes it extremely difficult to operate. And the fact that you can't promote your products publicly contributes to that lasting stigma of these compounds. So I think that globally there's a massive opportunity, but these elements have to be addressed.
Right, right. What about focusing on the marketing, the science behind the cannabis and the psychedelics? How do you feel? Maybe that's a technique to get around some of these marketing regulations, or is all of it banned in Canada?
It's you can't really advertise your product. So there's two elements and two aspects to that. And I think that if I take what we cannot do in cannabis and compare it to what we can do in the nutraceuticals section, that is something that is a value that we put for ourselves as paramount. We
Mm,
want to be extremely transparent. So we engage in a lot of clinical trials, and we made a commitment to always disclose and share these clinical trials, whether the results are good or bad, so that everyone can see what's going on. And I think that that's a responsibility of both the cannabis industry, any psychedelics company, and the nutraceuticals industry as well, to regain trust. And that trust should be gained through scientific data, consumer data, and sharing that with the general public.
right, right. Makes a lot of sense. Matt, are any of these products being studied or utilized in China at all?
No,
Mhm.
not to my knowledge. There's certainly nothing on the consumer side. There is something in some stuff in China with CBD, which is obviously different, but CBD is actually legal for production in 3 provinces in China.
Hmm.
China is a major exporter of CBD, and previously, although this changed, it was legal for use in topical skin products at a very low concentration. I believe at less than 0.01% THC per concentration levels. But the short answer is no. It doesn't look anything like the markets we see around the world.
Right, right. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, let's move on to another question for you guys. So, Matt, you mentioned Joe Rogan, who gets a lot of marketing out there on things that is an N of one, as we say sometimes, is something he's tried on himself.
Right.
Um, how do businesses are struggling from influencers and self-proclaimed gurus and experts out there. Pretty much anyone can make themselves an expert as long as they have over 100,000 followers now. How do businesses counteract that, and how do leaders of businesses like yourselves
Mm.
build trust with consumers when one day an influencer says one thing and then another influencer says exactly the opposite? How do we, as owning legitimate businesses in this space,
Yeah.
kind of counteract that kind of new trend in marketing? Meni, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, for sure, man. That's solid question because it's a huge problem, and it's a great example to what I briefly mentioned right after we had those technical difficulties around distrust in the wellness industry, because influencers and public figures can have an unbelievable impact on the establishment of consumer trust, both negative and positive. And there is little or almost no regulation around who can or cannot claim to be a wellness expert, due in part truly to how broad this industry really is. So I firmly believe that it is on us as companies who operate in this field to ensure we go the extra mile in order to earn consumer trust. And that means that even though we sometimes don't have to, we should create extra layers of analysis to personally vet individuals that we collaborate with. And I think this is important because, in my view, building trust is the foundation to a successful business. As I, again, might have mentioned, I don't know if you heard me, but transparency is the key to building trust. And the industry, at least the wellness, the broader wellness industry, suffers from a lot of unfortunate, let's call them accusations, right? This is snake oil, this is smoke and mirrors, and doesn't really work. And that really stems from, unfortunately, some shady brand practices that some employed that are heavily rooted in certain marketing tactics. And the industry has to acknowledge the missteps of our past as a whole. So to give another example, our nutraceuticals division, upon launch, acknowledged the mistrust of the industry and its known reputation. So what we've done is we doubled down by ensuring transparency, as noted, is a key value of who we are as a brand. And then we vow to release those clinical trials that I mentioned. So this data, as I noted, will be available to everyone, even our competitors. And why do we do that? It's, again, trust. It's important for us to show that our goal as a company is beyond just making money, especially making money in the short term. Now, don't get me wrong, we are a for-profit company, and making money is important, not only because we have an obligation to our shareholders, but also because we can then use this money that we make for further R&D and future growth. So when I say beyond making money, I mean that the needs of and the benefits to the consumer and the global good has to be paramount. So we should all put our money where our mouth is as a collective industry and show, not tell, what it is that our ingredients do and our products are here to support. So I think that if I look at it more broadly, the nutraceutical, or maybe more specifically, the nutraceutical industry in particular has a responsibility to go well above and beyond what is required in order to ensure products are safe and effective, really.
Right. No, that's a fantastic answer. Matt, I'd like to get your perspective, and I'll share a story I have with the audience as well. So go ahead, Matt.
Sure. This, unfortunately, is not a business question and not a marketing question, but it's a regulatory question. And what I mean by that is, as long as businesses will always operate within the regulatory framework that of the country and the markets that they're in, and that's just the reality. So, for example, that's why Australian supplements are some of the most famous and well regarded in the world. People oftentimes think this is because, oh, Australia, clean and green, and it's a wonderful country, which it is. But actually, the TGA, which is the Therapeutic Goods Administration of Australia, highly regulates supplements. The FDA of Australia actually regulates dietary supplements, requires registration, requires very, very strict evidentiary structure function claims, and very restricts what you can put on a bottle. So if you get something from Australia, they have the evidence to back that up. Now, as a result, the quote unquote innovation in Australia is far behind many other countries, but that's because what innovation may actually mean is people are putting whatever they want on a bottle and saying, and in the United States, and saying the FDA has not, evaluated these claims. Please consult your doctor, before you take these guys. So, what we're seeing now is in the United States, the FDA and the FTC are really taking a closer look at how they regulate dietary supplements. And there are really, really good examples of that, like the recent court battle with NMN, which I'm sure people have followed closely, as to how are people going to pull back on for example, a compound like that has also been studied for therapeutic use in diseases or not. There's a new FTC guidance in terms of marketing of dietary supplements that is under discussion right now. So unless we can have the regulatory framework to back that up, you're always going to then have the ability of people who see how big of a voice they can get to say whatever they're legally allowed to sort of say. What I would say to one trend in the industry, as D2C marketing in the United States in particular has become so much more expensive and so much more of a crowded space, one trend in the industry has been sort of celebrity rounds, right? Where celebrities and influencers are now actually investing in and sort of taking the companies. A great example would be Athletic Greens in the space, which just did a very large round. It brought a lot of people on there. I would say, if I'm looking at someone and choosing a supplement company, if I see that a influencer or a celebrity is an equity owner and tied to that company, I might feel a little bit more confident, as opposed to if they're truly a hired gun, you know what I mean? And someone drove a dump truck full of money up to their house to say what they wanted to. But unfortunately, because of the loose regulations in the United States in particular, it really just is incumbent upon the consumer themselves to do exactly what Meni said: seek out the science, vet it for yourself, try to get the study, try to understand the study, and it's a little bit caveat emptor from there.
Those are such good points. I only have one comment, and if we're kind of flowing and talking about this, I think that having a stake in a company doesn't always guarantee that that celebrity has done their due diligence. I think that if we look at a completely different industry and look at what happened with FTX recently, you saw a lot of celebrities that acted as promoters or supporters of that business didn't do any of that due diligence. But if we take everything that you mentioned, all the elements that you noted in the chain, and that is just one of them, then I 100% agree with you. I just want to make sure that we don't look at one aspect and take one thing of everything you said and say, oh, let's just do that and everything will be okay. It's a chain of all the things that you said, and if those are reviewed, I am completely in agreement with you.
Yeah, those are all great points. I mean, there's a question in the chat here. Do social media platforms have an obligation to vet influencers? I mean, I think we know the answer to that one. They're never going to do it.
Yeah.
More and more people to become influencers, right? So, I find
huge.
myself often educating my patients about the pyramid of evidence, right? And, a celebrity influencer talking about something is an N of one. It's the worst kind of evidence you could have. You need to go up the pyramid and go to the blind randomized control studies and then go into even meta-analysis. And so once you can find a meta-analysis on a product that is a good study, you can feel confident with what it's saying. But until then, you really don't have good evidence with the N of one celebrity influencer giving a testimonial. And I think once I tell people that, they understand it. But like as Matt said, it's you're kind of on your own out there, right? The people really don't know who to trust. And a lot of people are going to Amazon and going by the number of 10,000 5-star reviews they have on there too. And even that is not, that could be bought as well. And so
But that's
I think it's really tough. And I think as an industry, I think, we people on this call and the people in the industry really have an obligation to continually educate the consumers and call out some of these bad actors, I think sometimes as well. Right. And which I spend a significant amount of time doing myself and on my social media platform, saying what not to buy, what not to do. Sometimes it's a uphill battle. Sometimes it really is. And kind of on that trend about the we have one question here real quick. How can the spread of misinformation be stopped in health and wellness? Having interviewed many consumers, people really have convictions that actually prevent them to reach results, right? So any ideas on how we can stop the spread of misinformation on health and wellness?
Oh yeah, I mean, it ties directly to what you said. Go back to the data, go back to the science. When you go on your social media platform and you share information that is beyond somebody just sharing their opinion, that is the basis to be able to making an informed decision. The problem is it's a multi-step process that a company has to follow to safeguard against these issues, safeguard against safety and efficacy problems. And it's not hard, but it's time consuming and it's expensive. So a lot of brands take the easy way out and only meet the bare minimum, or even worse, they spend their money back on these influencers. So I think that companies must spend ample time in research and development using strong scientific evidence as our navigation tool. We have to refrain from just jumping on trends and using, ingredient fairy dusting. Oh, this is cool. People like it. Let's just shove it in our supplement. Innovation in delivery technology, for example, and precise evidence-backed dosage are much more important factor. So then you need to test and test and test again and invest in clinical studies in every level possible using your product, not only for evidence but of your specific product, but also for clear evidence of what you can do better. And if you share that with consumers on your platform, then again, that chain that Matt mentioned and Darshan, you mentioned as well, is fulfilled. You have data to promote and that you can rely on. So in my view, to combat this misinformation, go back to the science, go back to the data, but it's on us to share it.
Exactly. And educate consumers on what is good data. I think that's also important too. Matt, any further ideas here on how we get out of this kind of rut that we're in with medical information?
Yeah, unfortunately, and maybe I'm a little bit not more pessimistic, but it's impossible to spread misinformation. It's impossible to stop the spread of misinformation. think what Meni's talking about really is being good actors and spreading the right information, which unfortunately won't stop the spread of misinformation, but at least you can put out sort of the right stuff. The common follows, it says, especially in the field of nutrition. Nutrition is a classic example that misinformation has been absolutely rife. I mean, and there's different sort of trends. For a lot of people, nutrition means weight loss, is really a lot of consumers' goals. And we've seen a lot of fad diets and high carb, high protein and low carb, and Atkins, and more recently things like keto. And is this healthy? Is it good? Is it not? I mean, even going back further to things when I was growing up, we were taught, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, right? Which I think was like a slogan of Kellogg's or something like that. I mean, there's absolutely nothing magical about breakfast as a meal from nutrition and any of these kind of things. So, look, the loudest megaphone backed by the most money is always going to ring out in the market, and there's nothing that any of us can do to stop that, again, other than regulation, which the United States is not famous for regulating speech, right? Other countries that I work in, China, are more famous for some of these things and will take aggressive steps when influencers say the wrong things, when there are speech on social media platforms or on the internet and these things. But that's not what the United States does, for better or for worse, different conversation. So I would say for all of us who work in the industry, it's just incumbent to be as good of an actor and as clear, helpful of a voice as you can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, great answers and a great analysis on the topic by you guys. Thank you so much on that. Let's talk about something more fun now. Let's look into the future a little bit, maybe 10, 15 years in the future. What breakthroughs are you really excited about? What are you seeing? What's maybe one thing or two things top of mind that's really got you excited and jazzed about what's coming in the next 10 years? How about Matt, you take that one first, and then we'll kind of go in a circle.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure many will say, well, one thing that's really super exciting for me is cellular health.
Right.
And when I explain this to people, and this is obviously the work I do with MitoQ and mitoquinol, and I explain it like this. I say, I think this is the third wave of the dietary supplement and the vitamin supplement industry. The first wave was, and this is going back, 60 years more probably, I don't know exactly when it began, was people saying, I know there's vitamins in my foods, but rather than eating, a pound of broccoli and a pound, and all these kind of things, what if we just distilled some of these vitamins into a supplement, into a capsule, a tablet form? Wouldn't that be more convenient, right? And that was what a lot of things were. Then about 30, 40 years ago, what I think one of a very, very important wave and turning point was the development of gut health and probiotics. All of a sudden, people said, well, whatever I'm taking, whatever issue I have with the body, it's actually all about the gut, right? And so we're going to do the gut-brain connection. I have a skin problem. Well, it's actually related to the gut. I have a mood problem. It could be related to the gut. And then there was this absolute explosion of probiotics. And now people are talking about probiotics and prebiotics and postbiotics and patented strains, and just absolutely explosive industry. I think the third wave of this is cellular health. Well, people are going to say, you know what? Actually, we're all made of cells, right? Everything in our body is made of cells. And if we can take care of our body and our health from a molecular level and look at things like, and now again, just like it did with gut health, where it started going into different branches and these kind of things, cellular health is going to go down that road as well. So now we're going to talk about what cellular health means. Well, there's increasing performance of your cells, making your mitochondria as the powerhouse of the cell and as of the body function more efficiently. There's going to be reducing oxidative stress and healing and reducing damage on the cells. So not just performance, but healing. There's going to be cellular, and there are regeneration. How do I make more of certain types of cells? Which type of cells? And these kind of things. And I think this is going to be the new gut health, the new vanguard in the industry. Very early days. Science needs to catch up. Molecules need to catch up. More companies, MitoQ, our hero product and ingredient, mitoquinol mesylate, we have a patent on it, and these kind of things. And so we're the only ones using it, obviously. I say, I would love, obviously, I don't want to give up my patent, but I would love more people to be using it, right? I would love everyone to be using it. And then we'll invent something better, and we'll do the next one and push everything forward. This is where supplements are heading, in my opinion.
Yeah. Excellent answer. Excellent answer. Meni, what are your thoughts?
Man, that is an excellent answer. And it's like, we didn't coordinate this at all, but Matt effectively, like you take MitoQ and you replace MitoQ with Micra, and I'd be preaching the exact same things, except I wouldn't be doing it as eloquently as you did. And I think it's not a zero-sum game, right? We use different compounds. We too have a patent pending on our delivery system, but we're all targeting the same problem using a very similar approach of addressing oxidative stress and cellular health, etc. It's just incredible how that was kind of your key point. And it's difficult to follow a little bit because that would have been my first choice. But if I have to select the second thing, it would be how we use the data that is available to us. You asked the question earlier where again, I don't know if I was able to be heard in that context, but we have so many wearables and so many devices and so much data that is available to us. I personally wear multiple wearables. I had a blood glucose monitor on me for quite a while to understand things, but I look at the data and I don't know what to do with it. And I think that your company, Darshan, is taking that to the next level. You look at data and you provide people with actionable insights. But to be very, very honest, I think that today your solutions are not available to everyone. It's something that is only the beginning, and therefore it's relatively costly to be able to retain these services and to even be able to be aware that they exist. So maybe 10, 15 years into the future, we'll be able to create a system where these actionable insights from the vast amount of data that we have become more available. They become ubiquitous. And then a personalized recommendation can come to the masses. Use MitoQ. Use Self by Micra. Oh, you just need to do this specific regimen of exercise and take these supplements, but it's personalized for you in real time using big data analysis. So I'm a big believer in the intersection of technology, mainly software and wellness. And if it's either a bet or wishful thinking, that is, I think, what will really change things in the upcoming 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, that's an excellent answer. I was wondering how you're going to find a number two after Matt's number one, which is I mean, I 100% agree with both of you. This understanding the cellular mechanisms, and truly that's where health really starts at a cellular level, and being able to modify that is going to be a game changer. And then using data effectively and applying artificial intelligence, machine learning to that data as well to discover new therapeutics, that's coming as well, as we've probably been reading about in the news. And I will add a third thing to that is extremely exciting to me is I feel like we've gone through kind of an up and down with genetics, right? We found out how to sequence the human genome, and we thought this is going to be the beginning of a change in healthcare. And everyone started getting their genome sequenced, and then we found that the data that from genomic sequencing really didn't help us too much. And now we know that really only maybe 10, 15% of the outcome of your health is really in your genes. It's more the environment that you create for yourself and you live in, and that's called the epigenome. And so it was kind of like a bummer for a little while, right? The last 15 years, like, oh, wow, I'm 23. I just found out I have a new cousin that lives in another state. But that's all the information I really got from it. Well, now what I am seeing is massive innovation in this industry. We finally figured out, number one, how to sequence a human genome for less than $5-10. We can do that's what it costs now to do this. But what we've also found is the ability to read DNA patterns, methylation patterns on our human genome. And what we can do with that is extremely interesting. Number one, we can find out our biological age. Number two, we can reprogram, which David Sinclair did out of his lab just recently in Harvard, reprogram that methylation pattern to actually turn back the clock of aging. Thirdly, we've discovered these Yamanaka factors that can take a regular cell and make it into a pluripotential stem cell. And fourthly, we're now finding, and this is incredible to me, methylation patterns of cancer tumor cells from a simple blood test. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the Gallery Grail test. Have you seen that test yet?
I have not.
No.
Game-changing, commercially available test. You can order it online. It's direct to consumer. The same company that developed the gene sequencing technology, you send them a blood sample, they will test your blood for 50 different types of fast-growing cancer in a week or two, and with incredible specificity and incredible sensitivity as well for most cancers. Not all cancers, most. So you should still do your colonoscopies. You should still be doing mammograms, et cetera. The test right now is north of $1,000, so definitely not something that you can do unless you're wealthy and you have that kind of disposable income. But as we know, the cost of this stuff comes down really quickly. I think in 2 or 3 years it'll be less than $100, and we will soon be able to screen the entire populations for cancer on a yearly basis, discovering it at stage 1 or stage 2. Cancer's biggest enemy is being discovered at stage 1 or stage 2, right? And then what we'll be able to do is create an mRNA vaccine against that cancer as well, or even prime our immune system. So I think our ability to diagnose cancer and treat it is going to be completely different in 10 years. There's no longer going to be massive surgeries to remove stage 4 cancer followed by years of chemo and radiation. It's going to become, we're diagnosing it stage 1, stage 2 with a blood test. We're treating it easily with a customized mRNA vaccine. I think that's what's really coming, and it's it's good news for all of us, right? The key is we just got to stay alive long enough to benefit for that, right? We have a question in the chat here. How do we solve the tracking issue? Nobody likes to track calories and the lagging of data, regular check-ins. You wanna maybe dissect that a little bit for us, Meni, and give me your thoughts, and we'll kind of go around in a circle.
Sure.
Yep.
I think that the second part, maybe I need some clarification, but I'll assume. But I think that the tracking issue, nobody likes calorie tracking. Man, I agree. And I tried so many apps just to track my micronutrients to see what I'm eating, what I'm not eating, and how it affects me, etc. Within 2 weeks, I was done with it, right? So it's still a challenge. I think that, again, if I approach it from the technological aspect, there are two things that we can do better. One, I think that we're lacking a unified global database of nutritional values. Today, no matter what app you use, even if you scan the barcode, it has to be validated by a human. Some people enter it wrong, etc. So you don't really know that what you're tracking is correct. So if we take an approach of, okay, we want to, as a society, a group of companies, invest in creating a global database that is reliable, that's one aspect. The other aspect is the massive advancements in computer vision. So there's a lot of talking about computer vision when it comes to self-driving cars, but there's so much more that technology can do. So if we take the time and effort to throw large amounts of data into training models for computer vision as much as we do for self-driving cars, we might be in a position where these apps become much, much smarter. And as it comes to lagging of data, I don't know if I understand that fully, but to assume to know how you feel, or not how you feel, but your health status, you have to go and do a test or go see a physician, similar to the test that you provided. So again, I go back to my previous point, which is wearables are becoming so common, so available, but it is the analysis of that data. And Darshan, you mentioned machine learning. It's such a buzzword. Everybody likes to throw AI and machine learning in everything they do to make it sound cooler, but it does actually have the ability to solve similar or problems such as this. In my background, one of the company that I founded was an AI-powered e-commerce personalization. So we use machine learning to track user behavior and implement that for website personalization. But the model that we used can be, for example, in that context, leveraged to analyze health data as well. So again, going back to the previous question, if we are able to analyze the data in real time and provide actionable insights to patients, consumers, that is the best way to address that lagging of data. And it also means that when you do end up going to the physician, they have so much information, so much more information in front of them that they can act upon versus trying to diagnose you in the very short period of time that they have you in front of them.
Right. Now that's excellent. Matt, do you have some perspective on this?
Sure. So I look at it from two angles on the tracking and the data, and one is education, and the other is regulation. And so, first of all, on the tracking side, you're never going to get anyone to put in the data, and the best you can do is health surveys, and a lot of people lie on health surveys. One of my good friends, I just did a YPO event, is the head of performance nutrition for the UFC. And so he's a PhD in weight loss and cutting weight and a lot of these kind of things. And he works with all these athletes and does calories in, calories out, all these tracking. And he says the biggest issue is they just lie. Everyone lies about what they eat, how often they eat, how many M&Ms did you have, right? I mean, it's just everyone lies, right? It's just so. My baseline for data is assuming that people are not going to, for tracking rather, is assuming that people are not going to do it consistently. And if they are going to do it consistently, the self-reported data is probably a sizable percentage of it's wrong. So then it goes back to the actual check-ins and what data do we have. And of course, we need, therefore, empirical data. This is getting into a lot of what you're talking about, actual blood markers, actual observable clinical data. Here is where I go to the education and regulation. First of all, despite all the companies out there working on this space, I don't know, and I believe there's not a real answer. What tests do you actually need done? And how often do you need them done? And what is a safe and what is a good result and what is not a good result? I don't know if I think anyone can answer, or there's certainly no definitive answer. I'm sure everyone has an answer. I don't know if there's a definitive answer. And there's some tests, like maybe genomic sequencing, that need to be done once, right? Your genes are probably not. Other tests probably need to be done annually. Other need to be done quarterly. So we need to have an answer what that is. But then the answer needs to come back to money. The United States, in particular, does a very poor job in the health insurance system at providing reimbursement and funding for preventative care. The whole system is designed around, once you're already sick, providing treatment for you. But in China, for example, your annual health check, your TGen, is reimbursable. And so there's an incredibly high compliance rate, and a lot of employers require it. You require it for a work visa, for a whole bunch of things. Getting a regular health screening with a variety of different types of things. If more countries and more health insurance systems said, first of all, going back to my first point, we agree that these are the 10 tests that you need and how often you need them, right? That I don't know if anyone agrees yet, and we are going to put our money where our mouth is and actually provide reimbursement or incentive through employer, through these kind of things, for you to get these tests regularly and remove that barrier. Then you will start to see meaningful, and then even better would be to provide funding and insurance and reimbursement for preventative treatments, for going further, for homeopathic treatments, for alternative treatments, for things that not just you now need to be hospitalized and sick and need prescription drugs and all these kind of things. I think you'd see meaningful change in the industry.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, Matt. A great answer, and especially on the perspective of we're such a disease-focused society, and there's not much is offered to you until you're diagnosed with a disease, and then you get a lifetime of pharmaceuticals, right? And it's
exactly, it's terrible.
Exactly. But I will tell you, Matt, that I actually have a spreadsheet, a shared Google Doc that I've created for all of my patients on exactly what tests you should do and when and how to track them. And you're right, there's not.
Please share it with us.
I will. There's not 100% agreement, but there's pretty good agreement in the physician community, at least, especially in the longevity physician community, at least, of there's a list of biomarkers you need to follow on a quarterly basis, and then there's a list of tests you can do on an annual or every 5-year basis. And I can certainly share that Google Doc with you, and would love to get your feedback on it. But I've been using it for all my patients now for a good 4 or 5 years, and it's been very helpful. We've pre-diagnosed many diseases that could kill you, such as diabetes, cancer, heart disease, sometimes 15, 20 years before they become a problem. That's the key. Finding out you have a disease 15 to 20 years before it becomes something that kills you, right? So I'll share that. Maybe the moderators on this call can share that link with everybody as well if you're interested. We have 5 more minutes. I wanted to ask one last question, just kind of cap it off. What age do you want to live to? And what age do you think that a child born today will live to?
Ooh. That's a difficult one.
No, but
Yeah.
we just, and of course, I'm not asking, I'm not going to hold you to it, of course.
There's nothing holding. I don't know if it'll be successful, but I think my answer depends on what you said earlier, which is, health span versus lifespan. I don't want to live to be 150 if I'm going to spend, 50 of those 150 years not being able to do what I love doing, not being able to recognize the people around me, and not have a good quality of life. So I'm actually not going to answer that question at all. I'm going to say I want to live as long as I can if I am healthy and I'm able to live my life to the fullest. And that is my focus. So I don't think that we should focus on extending our lives just for the sake of extending it. If we can extend our lives and be healthy, absolutely, let's do that. And someone who's born today, whew, I think that if I had to take a bet that I'll never be able to cash, I would say 130 or 125 years is starting to make a lot of sense.
Excellent answers, Meni. Matt, love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, very similar. Obviously, the health span is a very big one. I really agree with what Meni said. I think for me, and especially for my own journeys of health and wellness, I really subscribe to this philosophy that the past is uncontrollable, right, and is gone. The future is unknown, and so it's really about the present. And this is part of my own, part of health and wellness is, of course, mental health, right, and all these kind of things. And so whenever people talk about health spans or how long they're going to live, I personally collapse things back to, well, what are you going to do today, right? Let's just talk about today. And what I would love is, and what I try to do is, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I try to take care of myself and my loved ones and my family each and every day. So everyone who's focused on health and wellness, while you're getting your cancer preventative biomarkers and you're taking all these kind of things, make sure you're with people you love, doing something you're passionate about, working out daily, eating right daily, taking care of yourself. And what I've found is if you have a good day and you can string together a few good days and healthy days, pretty soon you have a week. Pretty soon the weeks will turn into months, the months will turn into years, and you've built a healthy life from the ground up, regardless of how many of those years you get on the planet.
That's fantastic. Great answer. Quick answer on what's the average lifespan going to be for a child born today? What do you think on that?
Oh, I think in the United States are currently, so for born today, I don't know. Unfortunately, I believe the lifespan in the United States is going backwards. I actually believe for the first time, these kind of things. I would imagine for a variety of reasons, we're still going to be in the 80s on the app. Now, we're not talking about the maximum, and I think you're going to get a lot of people who are going to break more and more the centenarians and these kind of things. But I would imagine we're still in the 80s would be for my kids at this stage. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, this is great guess. I'll give you my quick guesses. My guess is I have the same exact answer you do about health span. I like to live as long as possible, as long as I'm feeling good about my current status of health. And if not, I don't want to live past that. And secondly, I think a child today will probably live past 100 years with good health span. I don't know how much farther than 100, but I do think 100 is definitely very, very possible. We're at an hour. I truly want to thank you both for just providing incredible insights and being open to answering any question in the sense of YPO openness. And I hope that we can get to do this again sometime. I also want to thank YPO for putting this together. I hope it was valuable to everybody. There will be a link that is emailed to everyone that you can share this conversation and have discussions about it with your friends. And tune in for the next time YPO does Ask the Experts. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.